Hi everybody, welcome to Live Blogger. In the previous video, we started creating this to-do application using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. In the previous video, we created this UI. Now in this video, we'll see how to add the functionality of this app using JavaScript. So we need to add the functionality of adding the tasks over here when we click on this add button after entering the task over here. And then we need to add the functionality of making a task complete by clicking on this complete button, and it should have a different styling. And then we need to add the functionality of removing the task when we click on this remove button. So we're going to do all of that in this video. Let's get started. Right here I'm in the source code, and the first thing we need to do is we need to remove all these tasks from the HTML file. So we need to generate all of these from the JavaScript. So I'll just go ahead and delete these two tasks from here. And I'll just keep this single task over here so that we can see how the structure of the task is. So I'll just select all of this task and I'll just comment it. So you can just press command and /. And now we can see that the task has been commented, but we have the code for creating the task in JavaScript. And if we go back to our website, this is how it looks. We don't have any task displayed over here. So let's go ahead and start with the JavaScript. Now here we can see that we have already linked our main.js file. So let's go to the file. Now first of all, let's create an array. So I'll just name it tasks. And I'll just create an empty array over here. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to reference some of these elements from the HTML. So the first thing we need to reference is the add button. So this is the add button. And then we need to reference this input field because we need to get the data from the input field. And then we need to reference this task list division because we need to add all the tasks inside this. So let's reference these three elements. We have these classes add btn, tasks list, and this input field. So let's type const input equals document.querySelector, and we have this container division called to-do container. So let's type .to-do container input of type text, and then we need to reference the add button. So let's type add btn equals document.querySelector, and here let's type add btn. And then let's type const tasks list equals document.querySelector, and let's type to-do container tasks list, and here also I'll just type .to-do container. Right now that we have referenced these elements, let's go ahead and add an event listener to this add button. So here I'll just type add btn.add event listener, and let's listen for the click event. Now here we need to create the task using the value from the input. So let's create a variable for that. I'll just type task, and let's set it equal to input.value. And then the next thing we will do is we'll create a function to create the tasks. So I'll just create a function called create tasks, and we'll pass this task value over here. And then we also need to pass a value for whether the task is completed. Here we can see that we have this button for complete task. So if we have the task completed, then we need to have a different styling. So we need to get the data of whether the task is complete or not. So for the second argument, I'll just type false. So by default, the task will not be completed. So I'll just send false by default. And then for displaying the tasks, I'll just create a function called display tasks. So this function will handle displaying it on the screen. So basically writing the HTML. And once we do that, we need to just set this input value to blank. So let's type input.value equals blank. And now let's go ahead and create these functions. So let's create this create tasks function. So let's type const create tasks equals, and here we are getting task and the value for completed. So I'll just call it completed. And let's create an arrow function over here. Now here the first thing we will do is we will check whether the input field is empty. So I'll just change this name to task title, and here also I'll just type task title. And here also I'll just type task title so that it is clear. Right now let's go back over here and let's add an if condition, and let's see whether the task title is empty. So let's type task title dot trim equals empty, and if the task title is empty, then we'll just return from the function. Now we are adding this trim function over here because we need to check whether we have any spaces over here. So if you just have any spaces and if you click on add, the task should not be added. So that's why we are adding this trim. Right now the next thing we need to do is we need to add the task to this tasks array. So we can just type tasks dot push, and here we'll just pass an object, and we'll just type task title, and we'll set it equal to task title, and I will type completed, and we'll just set it to the completed value that we get from this function. Right now let's go ahead and console.log this tasks array, and let's see whether the task is added. So let's type console.log tasks, and let's go back to our design, and let's open the console, and here let's type testing, and let's click on add. And now if you open this object, here we can see that we have testing, and the completed is set to false. Let's add one more task. Let's just type the second task, and let's click on add. And now we can see there are two items in this array, and here we have one for testing and the other for the second task. So it is working all right. So let's go back. Now here we can see that we are typing task title colon task title. Now when both these values are same, we can just omit one of these. So we can just type it like this. Right now let's see whether this works. So let's go back and let's type testing, and let's click on add, and now we can see it says testing. So let's type testing 1 2 3, and now we can see it says testing 1 2 3. So it is working all right. So let's go back, and the next thing we will do is we'll create this function. So I'll just call it display tasks. So let's create this function over here. So I'll just type const display tasks, and let's write the code to display the tasks. Now the first thing we will do is, if you don't have any tasks displayed over here, then we'll just type no tasks to display. So I'll just type if, and we'll just reference this array right here. So let's type tasks dot length, and let's see whether it is equal to 0. And if the length of the tasks is 0, then I'll just display no tasks to display. So I'll just reference this element right here, tasks list. So just type tasks list dot text content equals, and let's type no tasks to display. Right now let's go ahead and call this function display tasks in the beginning. So I'll just type display tasks, and now let's go back to our design, and now we can see it says no tasks to display. Right now let's go back and let's write the code to display the tasks. So if we have any value inside this tasks array, then we need to write the code to display the task. But here in this if condition, I'll just type return so that it will stop this function if the tasks is empty. Right now let's go ahead and loop through all the tasks inside this array. So I'll just type tasks dot for each, and for each of the single task I'll just call it t. So let's create an arrow function over here. Right now let's go back to our HTML file, and here we can see that first of all we have this button. So we have this button tag with the class of complete btn. So let's create that. I'll just type const complete btn equals document dot create element, and we'll just create a button. And now let's go ahead and give it a class. So let's type complete button dot class list dot add, and we have a class of complete button. And now inside the complete button we need to add this svg. So let's copy this svg from here, and here let's type complete btn dot inner html equals, and let's add backticks, and let's paste the svg code over here. Now we also need to add an event listener for this complete button, but we'll do that later. Before that, let's go ahead and create the other elements. So the next element we need to have is this task title. So let's create an element for that. So let's type const, and I'll just call it title equals document.create element, and let's create a div element, and we need to give it a class. So let's type title.classList.add, and let's type task title. Now in this division we need to add the actual task, so we are getting that from task title inside this array. So let's type title.inner HTML, or we can just type text content equals t, which is each of the items inside the array. We are calling it t dot, and let's type task title. Right now let's go back, and the next thing we need to have is this button, and we need to create a button tag with a class of remove btn. So let's type const remove btn equals document.create element button, and let's add a class. So let's type remove btn dot class list dot add remove btn. Now in this button we need to have this text of plus, so let's type remove btn dot text content equals plus. And now we also need to add an event listener for this remove button, but we'll do that later. Alright, the next thing we need to do is create this division with the class of task. So let's type const task equals document.create element div, and let's type task.classList.add, and here let's type task. And now we need to add this complete button and this task title and also this remove button inside this task division. So for that let's type task.append child, and the first one is complete button, so let's type complete btn, and then let's type task.append child, and we need to type title, and then let's type task.append child, and let's type remove btn. And the last thing we need to do is we need to add this task division inside this tasks list division. So we have already referenced that over here, tasks list. So let's type tasks list dot append child task. Right now let's go back to our design and let's see whether everything works alright. So let's type testing and let's click on add, and here we can see that the task has been added. Now let's type testing 1 2 3 and add. Now we can see that we have testing added once more, and then we have testing 1 2 3 displayed over here. So the previous task is also added once more. So for that we need to go back, and here before this we need to set the HTML of the tasks list to blank. So let's type tasks list dot inner HTML equals blank. Now let's go back and let's type testing, and we have the task displayed, and let's type testing 1 2 3, and we have the second task displayed. So everything is working all right. Right now let's write the function to remove these tasks when we click on this remove button. So for that let's go back to our code, and here we can see that we have created this remove btn. So here let's add an event listener. So I'll just type remove btn dot add event listener, and let's listen for the click event, and let's create an arrow function over here. And now we need to remove the task which is currently being accessed, which is inside this t variable. So we can just use the splice function in JavaScript. So let's type tasks dot splice, and here we need to type tasks dot index of, and we need to check the index of t, and we need to remove just one element. So I'll just type 1. Right now let's go ahead and call the display tasks function once again. So now let's go back and let's see whether everything is working. So let's type testing and let's click on add, and we have the task displayed. Let's add one more task. So we have these 2 tasks displayed over here. Now let's click on this remove button for the first task, and we can see that the first task is now removed, and if I click on the second task is removed. So the remove button is working alright. Now let's create the functionality of the complete button. So if you scroll up here, we can see that we have the complete button displayed. Now here let's add an event listener to this complete btn. So I'll just tap complete btn dot add event listener, and let's tap click, and let's create an arrow function. Now here the only thing we need to do is we need to reverse the value of completed. So right now by default the completed value is gonna be set to false, so we'll just set it to true. And if the value is set to true, then we'll just set it to false. So for that we can just type t dot completed equals exclamation t dot completed. So this will just reverse the value. And let's go ahead and call the display tasks function. And here we'll also console.log it so that we can see that it is working. So I'll just tap tasks, and let's go back and let's create a task. So we have these two tasks displayed over here, and if we click on this array, we can see that both the values are set to false for the completed. So now let's click on this complete button, and now let's open this, and now we can see that it is set to true. And if I click on it once again, now if we take a look at this, we can see that it is set to false. If I click on the first task complete button, we can see that the first one is set to true. So the completed value is changing. Now we need to update the styles according to this completed value. So we'll also change the icon based on the completed value. And for the styling, we'll add a styling of line through for this text. So let's go back. So here we can see that we have the title. So let's add a style to that. So just tap if t dot completed, and if the task is completed, then we need to add a specific styling to this. So let's tap title dot style dot text decoration, and we'll just set it to line through. Right now let's go back to our design, and let's add some tasks. And let's click on this complete button, and now we can see that we have a different styling. So the complete button is working alright. We'll also change the icon when we have the task completed. Let's go to heroicons.com, and here let's type circle, and we had used this icon right here. And let's go to solid, and we'll use this icon for the completed task. So let's go back to our code, and here we will add a condition. So let's tap dollar symbol curly braces, and let's tap exclamation t dot completed, and here let's tap question mark. And now if the task is not completed, then we will have this icon. So I'll just add the ending curly braces over here, and let's add this svg inside single quotes, or I'll just go ahead and delete this svg from here, and let's copy the icon once more. So here in the first single quotes, we need to add the icon for the not completed tasks, and then let's type colon, and here in the second single quotes, we need to add the icon for the completed tasks. So let's go back to Hero Icons, and let's go to outline, and let's copy this icon, and let's paste it over here. And whenever we have this error, we can just type backward slash, and here also we'll type backward slash, and here also, and it will solve the error. Now let's go back and let's go to solid, and let's click on copy svg, and let's paste it over here. And here also let's type backward slash, and here also backward slash, and here also. Alright, so here we are basically displaying this icon if we have the task not completed, and we are displaying this icon if the task is completed. So let's go back to our design, and let's add some tasks over here. And let's click on this complete button, and we have a different icon. So the styling is working alright for the completed tasks, and even the remove button is working alright. Right now the last thing we need to do is we need to add these tasks to the local storage, so that even if we refresh this page, the task still remains there. So for that, let's go back to our code, and let's create a function for that. And here I'll just create a function, and I'll just call it save tasks. And in this function we can just type local storage dot set item, and we'll just call the key tasks, and for the value we'll just stringify this tasks array. So we can just type json.stringify tasks. Right now let's go ahead and call this function in this display tasks function right here. So here I'll just type save tasks, and now when we load this page we need to get all the tasks from the local storage and we need to store it inside this tasks array. So let's create a function for that. So here I'll just create a function called load tasks. Now here first of all let's create a constant and let's name it loaded tasks equals, and we need to get the tasks from the local storage and we need to parse it into a JSON format. So let's type json.parse and let's type local storage dot get item and let's type tasks, and now let's add this loaded tasks to this tasks array. So we'll just type if loaded tasks, then we'll just type tasks.push and we'll just destructure all the items inside loaded tasks. So all the items will be stored inside this tasks array, and let's call the function over here. So let's type load tasks, and now let's go back to our browser and we have this error. So here we need to type loaded tasks, not load tasks. So let's go back to our browser and let's enter a task. So I'll just type create a presentation and let's click on add, and here we have the task added. So let's click on this refresh button, and now we can see even if we refresh this page the task is still here, and if I complete this task and if I refresh this page we can see that the state still remains. So the local storage is working alright. Now the last thing we need to do is we need to add the task when we press the enter button after typing the task. So for that let's go ahead and let's type input dot add event listener and let's listen for the key up event, and here we'll get a value. So I'll just call it e, and let's add an if condition and let's check whether the key is enter. So let's type e dot key equals enter, and if it is so then we need to type let task title equals input dot value, and we need to call the create task function, which is this function right here. So let's type create tasks, and we need to provide the task title and the completed. So let's type task title, and by default the completed value will be false, and here we'll just call the display tasks function and we'll just type input value equals blank, and let's go back and let's add a new task, and here I'll just type a new task and let's press the enter key, and now we can see that the task has been added over here. So that's basically how you can create a to-do list application using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Alright, so that's basically it for this video. If you have any doubts you can ask in the comments below, and I will leave the link of the source code in the description of this video. And if you like this video please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.